Good morning, Trumptopia! Today is the 6th month of the year, 21st day of the month, and the year is the 2017th year since the death of some dude we nailed to a cross. Or at least, according to these guys in Rome. Welcome to the almost daily podcast. The rants and ravings of one concerned citizen of Trumptopia. The theme music for the show is Lion's Haven, created by a group called Art of Escapism, all one word. You can look them up on, they're on the episode profile thing on this show, and the freemusicarchive.org. There's links. I have links everywhere. Everyone's got links. Anyways, we are here today, and things are wild and crazy. How's about that Senate Congressional Committee hearing action? Huh? Anybody tune in on that? Tune in? Anybody watch that? Anybody actually ever stop their television on CNN? Ever? Probably not, right? But let's talk about the witch hunting. I'm going to fade up the music here. Let them... That's done. Alright. The esteemed and funny-colored leader of Trumptopia has declared that the investigation is a witch hunt. Now, there's a lot of ambiguity there. As a matter of fact, the president's outside counsel, lawyer's lawyer, and let me be clear, I'm not just trying to be silly. The president is encased with many layers of lawyerdom. Typically kind of is. The office, the House, the establishment, the institution known as the White House has its own in-house, law team. And they got a funny name that's not coming to the front of my mouth right now. And then often presidents will have lawyers from outside of... Because that in-house counsel is really about the legacy known as, the legacy institution, and not about any of the individuals, for those of you who didn't know that. Same thing with the other offices like the Attorney General or, Director of the FBI. Those people are not, and this is a point of argument, but in those roles, those jobs are not supposed to be mindlessly pledging allegiance to any particular individual president. Mostly because... if you do that, then you might not honor your responsibilities to the law, to the Constitution, and to the institutions involved. Not that I'm a statist. Do not get me wrong. But I am a realist. I have been accused of being a Zenist, although I never officially or formally studied with anyone anywhere. I just done a lot of research in these funny little buildings called libraries in different university campuses throughout my, the places I grew up. I loved going to the library. And for those of you out there who might be listening who just don't know what quiet, subtle, meditative-like joys are available to you by just surrendering yourself to the moment of being in a library, you're missing out. Honestly. I know that's a totally random tangent. But you really are missing out. I bring it up because it is my humble opinion that while the internet is handy-dandy and is full of lots of pages with stuff that looks like information on it, it is not reliable. It is not verifiable. Now, that isn't to say that such institutions like our campuses of higher learning are to be trusted without any questioning. Of course not. First and foremost in my, if one could call it, a philosophy or worldview, is that we must, as individuals, take on the responsibility to question everything. Now, what I do enjoy is the range of information that's available to you in old-ass books. Books that have been vetted. Books that, from an era long gone, that were written and published, in hard copies, so you can't fuck with them once they're out, right? Like, you can't alter them once they're there, as you can quite readily with anything digital, because anything digital, while it may stay on the internet forever, it's also very fluid, easily obfuscated, easily edited and altered. I have personally, years ago, total sidebar, have been involved in personally and have known, vicariously, of people getting involved in, information accuracy battles or wars with people, especially over things like Wikipedia pages. Not that not any kind of authoritative page of massive following, but a page about a subject that I knew personally of, that someone else was like, "Fuck you, that's not what's going on there." I'm like, "How do you know about it? You're in, Chicago or Texas or someplace, and this is the thing I witnessed personally here in my." Anyway, I digress. Books in libraries, man. I spend a huge portion of my life reading them. Now, that's really hard to do nowadays, especially as the pace of our post-digital lives gets so crazy and fast, right? It's insane. Let's applaud for how insanely fast. I call that ironic audience. That's a very ironic fake audience in a can that I use. Our lives are crazy fast. And what's funny about it is that I don't think that time is traveling any faster. I just think that our consumption of media is sort of ordered and orchestrated by those preeminently concerned with keeping us distracted, divided, and arguing with each other, instead of enjoying life, united, and collaborating with each other. And what does that have to do with books and libraries? Well, when you look up stuff and you research things in books and libraries, you find out information, you find out things that are a little bit more trustworthy and reliable. And I throw that out there whenever people are like, but so-and-so. And I'm actually bleeding over to a topic I was going to put in a different segment. Witch hunt. No one's written the definitive fact-check and verified, historically accurate book on this crazy witch hunt yet. And I don't think I'm going to be the one to write it, right? But what can we know about it? Once you strip away the echo chamber effect from either end of the spectrum, and the spectrum has 4 poles. It's not just left or right. It also has the up and down axis, right? You ever take that quiz on the internets, and it puts you on one of 4 quadrants? Isn't that fun and neat? Well, each of those extremes, it seems like, to me, as an observer of our culture and of our media, I don't mindlessly consume it, right? I've read too much. I've read too many books. I read, is it Aristotle's or that other dude from ancient Greeky times? Because history was not my major, but it was a deep fascination of mine. Book. For those of you who want to know the truth about, like in a nice, consolidated, easily well-told form, the facts about basic philosophical worldviews, so that you can sort of, and these have been, descriptions and narratives or storylines about, factual storylines about what we think is going on in the world that have been debated and argued for centuries and remain as engaging, intriguing, potential answers to what the fuck's going on. And but you don't want to go and dig up 10 or 15 dry, boring history books to try to get your brain around it. You want someone to give you a lovely, condensed, it reads like a novel, but it's actually all historical fact presented to you inside a sort of interesting little storyline. Then you have to read Sophie's World, if you haven't. It's really lovely. I encourage that always. If I had the sort of luxurious, kind of economic status to be just giving away prizes and gifts, I'd give that to everybody. I gotta tell you. Great book. And it's why philosophy matters. Hashtag philosophy matters. Spread it. I think I coined it. Why does it matter? Because it's hard to have a coherent, cogent, honest discussion about what's going on in the world when you don't really understand, some default things that humans have all said, okay, we think these all might be real, but we can't really tell. And honestly, you know how there's that saying, the clothes define the person? That's crazy ego madness. That's an early on, the suit makes the man. Wherever that originated from, that is early pro-ego brainwashing construct. What does this have to do with the state of the world today? Witch hunt. I'm rambling. I'm going off on crazy tangents. Reel it back. What do I know about the Russia investigation? Let me be really honest. Oh, right. Go read Sophie's World. It's not. No one paid me to endorse that book. I said that because I love that book. What do we know about the... Okay, end of that. End of tangent, end of rambling. Let's get on track with today's episode. I don't know why, I just love yay. I love the sound of people in general. That kid's extra funny for some reason, saying yay. As an abstract sound effect, not as something that happens in real life. So, witch hunt. Who do you trust? Let me tell you. It's not that hard to find a simple infographic or a much marginalized by the mainstream media, print-bound book, of which I'm sure someone's already written about at length, that I don't have a title for to give you because I haven't read it. But I'm sure someone's written it, explaining how the vast majority of our media outlets are all, interrelated. Do we take that and we mean by business fiduciary, like money fact? This company owns that company that owns these other companies that are all subsidiaries of this other big mega company, right? And there's a lovely sort of org chart of all that floating around. Oh, there's a fun one that uses like octopus, like a horrible, monstrous, ancient monster of ye olde times looking octopus to sort of carry the analogy. And each tentacle is a branch on the kind of inseparable family of the media empire. But where do you go? Rejecting all those, I think I might pretend to think that factcheck.org is worth looking at. Only because, in theory, and I don't know, I've never been, I don't have the resources, but if I had a show and a production team, I'd be like, let's do a special episode on who the hell is factcheck.org? Where is their money coming from? And how do they check their freaking facts? Right? So as soon as that happens, we're on it. But that's a whole thing. Like, you got to book airline tickets, Not happening for this episode. But I'm going to... That's a great question. Let's ask that. Who owns... factcheck.org? And I guess that shit... Not Porg. Oh my god, I just typed it on purpose this time. By accident. Like, not on purpose, but I knew I was typing it. First time it was total accident. Okay. Who owns factcheck.org? Let's see... Let's see what Wikipedia... Like, who do we trust? I'm trusting Google. Who owns Google? I mean, that's obviously a matter of public record in terms of it's a public company. But who runs it? Whose money originally paid for its, like, bringing up into existence? I remember when Google didn't exist. And you had much more bare bones, much more really random ways of searching the internet. Factcheck.org is a non-profit website that describes itself as nonpartisan consumer advocate for voters that aims to reduce the level of deception and confusion in the U.S. politics. It is a project of the Annenberg Public Policy Center of the Annenberg School for Communication. Now, I don't know of any conspiracy theories that center on the Annenberg, and I have always found other projects that get funding from them to be pretty chill in terms of slant. Now, I've been paying attention to the media since I was a kid, right? Now, for those of you who listen to my other podcasty segments, you know that as a kid I was also kind of crazy, experiencing unusual experiences that I needed to verify whether it meant I was insane or whether they were just common and we didn't have very much information about it. What does that have to do with here and now? We're going to use fact check if I don't ramble my airtime to death. Because it seems, on the surface of it, in terms of what I can fact check about them, like a halfway decently reliable. It isn't going to be full of pro-Russia propaganda. It isn't going to be full of pro-Democratic or pro-GOP propaganda. It's going to be like fair, centrist, down the middle, right? Like, here's what we think we know. One of the slipperiest slopes, as anybody who knows a little bit of the smattering of different philosophies out there, is that even the idea of facts can be questioned and doubted, right? Oh yeah, I was talking about how I'd read, what's his name, ancient Greek guy, and The Cave, okay? So, theoretically, I think I wrap my brain around The Cave. Is that Aristotle? I'm having an old-timer moment. I get this shit from guys at my other job all the time. You're so old. Stop having old-timers memory moment. I'm like, fuck you guys. I'm older than you think, than I look, but I'm not that old. And I'm old enough to remember that when you really were curious about something, you couldn't ask your computer because nothing on your computer was connected to the internet, for fuck's sake. Essentially, the computer was an electronic typewriter for a really long time, which was awesome. But that reminds me, I miss real typewriters. And I want to posit to you a deep philosophical question. Do you think that if we still relied on paper, real paper, made of hemp, that lasts longer, motherfuckers, than poor hemp, paper pulp made out of cut down rainforest tree or any kind of like more hardwoody stuff? Hemp lasts longer. That's why the ancients used it. Do you think that we would know more or less about the clusterfuck of buffoonery that goes on in this government, the world's governments, and and each other's communities, and in each other's minds about what the fuck we think is going on if we relied on if we still had electricity and all kinds of modern conveniences, but we didn't have computers and the internet? Somehow we magically still would have video games, right? And porn, but because everybody needs those things. I mean, let's admit it. Let's admit this, that beyond all imaginable political boundaries, except for those of pure-minded spirituality, for whatever reason, and I'm not judging that. In fact, I applaud it because it is sort of part of the long-term path. But that's a whole other thing I will get into in Daily Zencast. This still has something to do with Trumptopia somehow. We all, beyond political ideological constructs, we all want to entertain ourselves with some kind of visual fantasy thing that either exorcises our fascination or our aggressive impulses to be violent and angry, and that or that it stimulates our visual cortex in a way that we can't get from just walking around with some sort of interesting mind puzzly challengey thing. We all want that. If we didn't want that, games and puzzles at all, even before electronics, and video games in particular, since the advent of computers, would not be as massively huge and popular industries as they seem to be. Right? And we also only fucking porn. Because everybody masturbates. Even people who claim to have never fucking touched themselves are somehow they somehow self-eroticize something. And I know this. How do I know this? I know this intuitively, vis-a-vis sort of like, and I'm not trying to steal from Bill Maher. Bill Maher nailed it with, I don't know it for a fact, but I'm pretty sure it's true, bit. I wish I'm not going to use that line other than to own up to, that, there are things like that in the world. And thank you, Bill Maher, for nailing that one down and stealing it from the rest of us. We can't use it without paying you royalties, I'm sure. And that's one of them. That's one of those things. Jerking off or some sort of self-sensual interaction to make it as PC as possible. Not that I'm a PC junkie. I'm not. That's got some quadruple entendres there. Because I'll play video games on a Mac. You follow me with that joke? Anybody? Because I will. I really will play video games on a Mac. That should be funny to people who know Macs and video games on multiple levels. A, for PC junkie, silly word association. B, not that many video games get ported to fucking Mac. Right? Am I right? And I think all of us, no matter what kind of Trumptopian we are, we can all agree we want better video games on better devices regardless of who makes them. And we want them all to be able to connect to each other. We want all video games to be every video game. And free. Okay. I digress. Wow, where was I going? Where was I going with today's... Oh, right, factcheck.org. And we're 22 minutes in, and we're going to look at some factcheck.org timeline of the Russia investigation. Now, don't get crazy mad at me if factcheck.org has got their facts wrong. But bless it, at least we've got it, right? Because I think if we still lived with books and no computers and technology, this would be a pain in the ass to go and get a hold of and read and then to have conversations about with people. Why did I bring that up? Why is that an interesting question? Because A, I'm crazy and I love to question everything. As a philosophical, what's that word I'm looking for? It's one of the many philosophical ingredients that I've borrowed from the world philosophies that I've invested in my time in researching from real books with real facts, and I think you got to question everything, and it's humbling. It's humbling, my friends, to imagine a world where we couldn't do this, because we might very well find ourselves in a world like this very soon. A world without computers, without the technology, without Instagram, without Snapchat, without electronic formats of porn, without all these things that we're addicted to. I'm not trying to fearmonger that, but it's very plausible. Trumptopia's army, no matter what condition you've been lied to believe it's in, is still the biggest in the world by many factors, multiple factors of multiplying numbers. In other words, it's at least as big as the next 6 largest countries in the world combined. And we are currently pissing off some of those guys, the next 6 largest military countries in the world. And we're pissing off a bunch of people who don't even have very big militaries, but who could do some damage. I.e., one of Trump's apparent favorite bad boys, over in North Korea. Let's not let the world get there. Because you know what? for those of you who've been paying keen attention, you already know. But those of you who don't know, who are wondering, what the fuck is this guy rambling on and on about? Go look up factcheck.org timeline of the Russia thing yourself and follow along if you want. And post your questions. Oh yeah, I was going to do a quick sweep of possible questions people might be asking. But for those of you who know, my worldview philosophy is, like as I was saying, stitched together of many different ingredients. And one of the threads, one of the themes in my worldview, and I would welcome a thorough, solid, fact-based debunking. But one of my theories is that the real people who really run what's going on in our postmodern society, whoever they are, because we don't know their names, right? Because they are the 1% of the elite of the 1%. They got so much money that they can prevent us from ever having known they existed. And they can, have puppets wherever they want, in governments wherever they want, however they want. And I think that their agenda is to make as much more money as possible before they die and hand off the game to their lineage, right? Why do I think that's true? Not because I've been anywhere and seen enough concrete evidence, but I have read enough books about history and about, like world history to understand quite simply that it is an undeniable fact that war and its many tiers of associated industries as a collective, the military-industrial complex, the idea of waging war, rebuilding from war, healing those who get injured from war, and generally engaging in the politics required to manufacture the consent for endless war, which is exhausting. Living in that way, which is then exhausting and stressful to the general public, which causes a lot of stuff. All those ancillary or auxiliary or whatever you want to call them, the businesses that are interrelated to the business of war, hands down, since before the time of Christ, most profitable game in town. If you call in the town, the entire planet. Not to invoke the flat Earth, round Earth, hexagon Earth argument, transcendental Earth argument. Obviously, trumps all that shit. It's transcendental Earth, yo. This is not a place. It is a transcendental fractal entity, organic being of manifestation of consciousness. Duh. But more on that and I really will today. Yesterday I did not. But I had other kind of non-podcasty things to do yesterday. Today I will podcast other segments. I'm building up steam, folks. Here we go. I gotta double check my time because I'm running out of time. I'm gonna do a segment too on the actual fact checks thing. Those guys, the warmongers, what do you think they want today? What do you think they wanted yesterday? What do you think they wanted the day of the election? What do you think they wanted the day that Donald Trump announced he wanted to run for office amongst the gaggle of crazy fucking clown car full of insanity that was the GOP primary? Long before Trumptopia existed, my friends, long before the United States of America existed, my friends, long before the Roman Catholic Church existed, long before any version of Christianity that you may or may not agree with existed, long before Judaism, which does predate Christianity at all, existed, long before Islam, which I am listing out of order unknowingly because it postdates. It's Judaism. In terms of the three religions everybody's commonly familiar with, Judaism is the oldest. Arguably, Buddhism is older than that, but true, real Buddhism is not a religion. More on that in a future segment of Daily Zencast. But for those of you dying of curiosity of why I said that, there are religions, which are institutions that require your belief, and then demand that you comport certain behaviors according to their stylings, based on whatever the fuck it is you blindly believe in that they require of you. That's what a religion is. Okay? Also money. And also, it's one of the, generally, pretty much, according to the research I've done in actual books, in actual libraries, one of the libraries of which was in the city of Rome, mind you. How many of you, my dear friends, have been in Italy, in the city of Rome, in a real library, looking at real books from ancient ye old oldie times? I have not had the pleasure of going to the kind of library that requires special academic credentials and white gloves, but I have had the pleasure of reading, post-print press, pre-computer era publications of of translations into English, because I don't read ye old ancient languages very well. But I think that trumps anything you might look up on Google. Something I'm really dying to rant about on Almost Daily Zencast. It's not appropriate for Good Morning Trumptopia. Is how there's a growing set of movements that are clearly, in my opinion, some kind of psyop or engineering, social conditioning engineering, that are about messing with public opinion around ancient spiritual matters. Flat Earth versus round Earth is a growing thing. Has been for the last 10 years. Lots of people that I know in real world that I interact with daily and have done so for the last 10 years through I have a pretty big social network offline for an average person, which is not thousands and thousands of people, but certainly into the hundreds. And they don't know, they don't realize, they haven't heard that Flat Earth versus round Earth. Also, Satanism versus Christianity in its many forms. It's a very misleading, very misconstrued, which has some conspiracy theories rooted in, that are trying to explain away Donald Trump. I'm not going to get into that today. But another thing, this is all for another segment. Why am I talking about it now? But I saw it today and I saved it on Facebook. A post claiming that New Age, spirituality, yoga, and meditation are all Satanism disguised in order to seduce you into Satanism. And I call bullshit. We don't need that argument right now. We don't need Flat Earth versus round Earth argument right now. We got our hands full with our own politics. And not just here in America, but worldwide. Why are all those things interrelated, you might ask? And it's sort of to the core of the theme of the kind of podcasts that I'm trying to run here. And here's why. Here's why I think those things are all interrelated. After nearly 30 years worth of research, me, and I'm not lying to you, I'm not bullshitting you, and yes, hobbyists, and not 30 years of it was spent in Rome. I only got to spend, 3 or 4 weeks in Rome, and, only a couple of days at the library. But throughout the rest of my life, in as many libraries as I get my hands in, my feet to, my butt in a seat in front of real books, I've stitched together a worldview that takes into account some of the things you might consider real and normal and statist and kind of ordinary and to be taken for granted, and some of the things you might call conspiracy theory. And I'm trying to present a sort of theory of everything, right? And trying to show how it relates to our everyday mundane bullshit. And I'm really excited to talk about something, and I'll come back to the timeline of the Russia thing in just a second, because I'm probably going to ramble about. I've only got 10 minutes left, and I'm probably going to ramble about just the following thing. Right? 10 minutes left. I'm terrible at my sound effects. By the way, I put those in because I really want to do this in front of an actual audience. My medium-term goal is that in 3 years, whether I'm doing it at a local radio station or whether I'm doing it at some kind of theater venue that I've built some sort of collaborative thing with, I want to sit on a stage with a little bit of lighting and a few extras and a lot of microphones and some video. Excuse me. Hold on a second. I feel a coughing fit, and I apologize for this. I can talk for 2 hours and not cough. I just didn't do all my theater warm-up shit, and I'm drinking too much coffee. One moment while I have a coughing fit. And to spare I think my techie friends, my technician friends, will be proud of the fact that I muted the microphone to spare both the ears of the audience and hopefully the devices themselves. I would love to be doing this show as a 2-hour show with funny breaks and dancing and music and reenactments of stupid news, but to the facts. I'm having a vision. Like, imagine like you are the live news studio audience, and it's funny and interesting and engaging and a little, like you're watching imagine you're watching a news show, but the news show you're watching is being produced on a Vegas stage or on a Broadway stage. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. Right now it's just me and my computer and a halfway decent microphone and an account on Sprecher. But I gotta digress from my digressions of digressions. And stay tuned. We're coming back to the timeline thing because I think there's some facts there worth discussing. Like I said in yesterday's episode, I only did 45 minutes yesterday, and I'm going to do multiple episodes today because I'm doing a marathon couple of days here over the next week. I've got the whole week completely off. Oh, shit. Okay, cool. All right. I'm still not muted. For a hot second, I thought I was still muted and I was wasting all that airspace. Yesterday, I talked about not falling down the rabbit hole of rabbit holes. And this Russia thing has got so many rabbit holes, in part by design, in my humble opinion. Because as I've posted before on social media, it is, in fact, a ruse. Those of you who are chanting that are not wrong. That does not mean, and this is a thing that can be true, and I know this can be mind-blowing for some reason, just because it is a ruse does not mean that it is also entirely fake and fabricated. I think that Russia did something crazy. I think they've been trying and playing along at doing that for a long time now. And I think that's obvious to a lot of level-headed people from all kinds of ideological constructs. What do I mean by ideological constructs? I mean the home base from which you view your worldview, which is usually informed by your parents, your education, and the media you consume. And the most common ones today are globalist statists that are driven by some kind of free market economy mentality, with some kind of sprinkling of religion or non-religion. And we're missing out because there's a lot of other worldviews you can take. And many of them are dismissed as futile or useless because they're a bit fantastical sounding at first. But I am super thrilled. I was super thrilled a couple days back when I was watching Bill Maher. And I like Bill Maher. I don't always agree with what he's got to say. But in terms of the pundits out there asking tough questions, sometimes Bill Maher gets 1.5 thumbs up for me out of a total of 3 thumbs up, right? That's my imaginary scale of media I could be competing with if I had a production company. So, because I'm supportive. I think we can all have different points of view. But he had the Honorable Brother Cornel West. And I made this note, and I meant to put it in yesterday's episode. And I got to send some love out to both of those people as an aspiring media public figure myself. I want to send some kudos and congratulations and love to them because they are willing to discuss things and take that audience and those on for the ride as other guests towards interesting places. And while Cornel West and Bill Maher don't always agree about things between themselves, and plenty of the rest of the world don't agree at all with either of the two of them, and I don't agree with them 100%. I'm not mindlessly following them. And I want to point this out there. I said this on my own show before the Honorable Cornel West said it on Bill Maher's show. But I'm sure that he's been saying it before I have in other platforms, probably in real life as well. And others have said this before. The president, not just this president, my friends, but whenever we as a species tribalize ourselves and pick a leader, they represent us, not just materially or ideologically, but something about the way the species works, especially once you wrap your brain around any of the sort of mystic interpretations of reality that include ideas such as morphogenetic fields and the notion that the species itself, as a species, as a collective, has multiple layers of higher consciousness that are operating in a way that we typically as individuals don't tap into, but that we are categorically and biologically and organically incapable of separating ourselves from, the way a leaf may delusionally imagine itself to be a standalone unit free from the rest of the tree, but in reality cannot be, because if it separates itself from the rest of the tree, it withers and dies. Right? Well, the human species operates like that to a certain degree, and we don't get to talk about it very much. None of the mainstream media talks about this, but let me tell you, in the historical record of things that can be verified as fact, plenty of people have made their case very intelligently with their own argument, with their own facts from their own personal life experience to say, this is so. So neither Cornel West, the Right Honorable and beautiful and much love-filled Cornel West, nor I are the first to say this, but it's important that it be said and that it be heard. Donald Trump is a manifestation of our own psychosis as a species, as a community. Donald Trump is Donald Trump because the United States of America was already becoming Trumptopia his entire lifetime. Right? His lifetime, his life journey. If he were to sit down and give a really deep, really honest, really tell-all expose of his life experience and the collective of things that he learned about during his life, I bet we could not deny that that theory makes a lot of sense. If we had all lived his life, we had walked all of his miles in his shoes, it would make sense to say that America has become Trumptopia. More on this subject on this segment, Trumptopia, Good Morning Trumptopia, and in other segments, because they're all interconnected. Go look up that clip. I think it should be up by now. I'd imagine that those guys, most media conglomerates take about a day and a half from the original air date to a day and a half from last. So, or if you've got HBO Go, it's already up. I'm sure it's been up. I'm talking about the free shit. I'm not paying for it. I would love to, though. I would love to have a team of people sitting around consuming all the media channels. I'm not trying to be a me here. I want these shows to be an us, a collaboration. So if you're interested and local, or interested and got badass enough internet, and want to collaborate, if you're not local, hit me up. Oh, and I never did check to see if there were any questions. I'm going to go see what questions there are, if any. I'm going to be on the air all day today. So it's not like that's it, I'm done. I'm just rambling as an opening segment. We're going to look deeper for reals into the witch hunt. Part 2. Coming in just a few minutes after a quick break. Oh yeah, I forget to mention, all references are made of my own opinion. My opinion does not represent those opinions of any of the media platforms that I This is my opinion show. Like I said, I love co-hosting. But one day I will start thinking, I gotta start practicing. But like Eddie Izzard, I'm sort of like just freestyling it. That takes practice. So thanks for all you early listeners. Thanks for putting up with my crazy.